Welcome, welcome, everybody. This is the CyphaDen Chat podcast in association with the Denku podcast. I'm your host, Tayambu Denku. I got my homie Pestilence in the building with me, and tonight's special guest, all the way from Toronto, Canada, my homie Choclair in the building. What is going on?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. How you guys doing, man? How you guys doing, man?
Man,
Good.
I mean, before we started the live, I briefly told you, I'm on my after work, just stay grinded, but definitely tired, man. And I don't know if you're I don't know how familiar you are with Wisconsin weather, but we started getting our summer humidity craziness, and it's like 90 degrees today with humidity. And yeah.
Yeah, it was actually well, you guys do 90, so what would that be like around? Yeah, it was about like 30 degrees like Celsius for us.
Oh yeah, that's right, you guys do the
Yeah.
Celsius joint there.
Yeah, so it was like that's roughly around like the same. And with the humidity, it would be like 40. So whatever that trend. So we're almost roughly around like that. We've got all this weather thing going on this week. It's gonna be like crazy, crazy hot. So but better than a snowstorm, but still.
Yeah,
Still.
yeah, man. I know Canada definitely gets hit during the winter months like crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but that's crazy. I always forgot that. I feel like Pestilence, this is US the only country that does temperature readings in Fahrenheit? I feel like we might be the only ones.
I think
There's
so.
a small handful of like countries we've influenced, like Puerto Rico and stuff like that, that also use the US standard. But outside of that, like we are pretty much the only ones that use.
Hmm.
And I think it's funny that we call it standard. Like you're
Hey,
like, oh, you guys are using metric? Well, we're using the standard.
Yes,
Like,
the
come on,
standard
man.
one. Okay. Yeah.
And it
yeah.
makes way less sense too. Like it's annoying when you get older and you start to like look at it how they were both developed and what makes sense, and it's like this ours does not make sense. Like a foot, it was a guy, it was the leg, it was how long a guy's foot was. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, man. So Chalk, man, what's been going on recently with you, man? I saw you've been doing a lot of huge shows. Actually, I've been seeing you on crazy stages, doing huge events. So yeah, tell me about that, about what's been going on.
Yeah, man, it's just been doing a lot of shows recently. I'm setting up for some new releases coming out this summer, probably like next month. And so we've been just setting up this stuff. Last year, did a lot of shows last year as well, and all of that was to go and set up coming out with the new music in 2024. I've been performing with this band called Wing Night. We did a couple of shows with them. It's really, really good. I've been straight on the road pretty much all the time, which is great because a couple years ago that wasn't happening. So it's good to be doing that, getting to meet a lot of the people I haven't seen in a while on the road and on tour, and just doing these shows and going back out there and just being in front of the crowd, which is, for me, is the fun part of doing music, is the stage shows. So it's just been good at doing as many shows as I can, setting up for the music coming out this summer and the album next year.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
You come from the era where you come from the era before the streaming takeover, before record labels were not needed as much as they are. I mean, they're still needed for promotional things. I feel like
Right.
they're definitely utilized for that. But you come from the era where people were looking to get deals.
Right.
But you started out with your own independent label before you even signed a crazy deal. So
Yeah.
looking back at that, before we even talk history of you as an artist, how do you feel looking at how different music is now compared to the era of the record label, with artists? Like looking at it from your perspective, how do you feel about the differences now?
Well, I think there's two sides. Like, I wish things were as easy as it was, but now when it was back then, but then because of the hard work you had to do back then, you can utilize, like, if the internet goes out, you still know how to read a phone book. Some people won't know how to read a phone book if the internet goes out. I know how to do both. So doing those stuff like the hard work like that, and like mailing your own record, pressing your own vinyl, doing your own shipping, taking it to the stores, finding the record pools, trying to get it chart, and you're doing that all on your own. You can utilize all of that knowledge that you got. And then when you get into a record situation or a situation that's easier flowing for yourself, you can still use that and then pass that knowledge on, because, once you know how to fix a car, you can fix a car. I know maybe now, but when it modernizes up into new cars today, there's still basic things that are still on a car.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is upgrade your thought and you can still fix the car. So it's like you learn the basics and you can move on. And some people just know the new stuff, like how to do it with the easier vibes instead of like, like if the power goes out, how do you start fire with just two sticks, right?
Mm.
So, but I don't mind it because, like I said, if those things were around back then, we would have utilized them, and they're utilizing them now. So now that it's there, and with the stuff that's probably to come.
I feel like there's a lot of people that get left behind though. Like when something new comes out, there's people that can't catch that wave. And I think that's definitely a thing I've noticed in some artists that I've followed over the years. They're they don't catch, sometimes they can't catch that wave. But
Right.
other artists just catch on to it right away. And like I've always been somebody who notices the new shit that's coming out, notices the new utilities, the new tools that are coming out, and then I try to learn how to use those to my advantage as well, so I can utilize them to move forward. But then
Right.
there's other people, like we had my homie Artemis on not too long ago, and we were talking about streaming and actually blogging when blogging was a thing. Like now I feel like the blogging era is dead and gone, but like there's those people that like heavily relied on the blogging era to push their records and their songs. And then when that went away, some of those people kind of stopped popping because they didn't have the blogging outlet anymore. Because now
Yeah.
I think we're kind of getting back to that um mixtape or uh radio show list of people that are running their own shows, to where they're like playing people's records again. I feel like we've it's almost like a 360, right? Because we started out getting our music to the DJs to get heard, to get them to play shit, and then that kind of went away a little. It didn't completely go away, but it wasn't in the spotlight like the blogging type thing was. That was like everybody sees the blogging on the internet, and then blogging dies, and now the radio DJs or radio shows are back in the forefront, I think.
Yeah. Well, like hip hop is like, what was it, 50? So, we're not even a century old yet. So we're just kind of learning, like, like with rock and stuff, they went through, like back in the back in the 90s, they started putting on classic rock. Because the new Green Days and stuff like that and Nirvana's wasn't what the people wanted to hear from listen to the 60s and 70s rock and early 80s and stuff like that. So like we're just kind of going back around. So that's kind of the thing, is that people sort of you could say they get lost in the sauce. But in a way, it's like it comes back around, because, like you're saying, it's like we used to give their records to DJs and stuff like that, and get them to break it first. DJs always wanted to have it first, and like, break this record. It was me who broke it. I had it first on my mixtape and stuff like that, and mix CDs and stuff. Then, like you said, people got into blogging and were doing all their stuff on their own, to where like that kind of faded out, and now what it is people are trying to get on DJs playlists and stuff like that. Like, because a lot of people, whether they're listening to music on some streaming service like Spotify or something like that, they're listening to their playlists or whatever, and they're listening to their DJs or just whatever. and the DJs that are playing the songs are going to hear those songs. So it's important now back to get it out to the playlist and the DJs and stuff. It's just being played on a different platform, you know, now and everything. And instead of like listening to it directly on, you know, the FM radio dial, you're just streaming it from and then it's good for the DJs too, because then if they're playing the music that people want to hear, or people are curious in the music because you find new music and they like that you break new music, then they're going to have you in their playlist. You know, your playlist will be in their libraries, I mean, and stuff like that. So it is coming back around, and that's good to see. A lot of it's coming back around too. Like, when it went from, remember when Little John came in, and that was like almost like all 808 80s music, you know, like and stuff like that. And then the beats kind of shifted up, and now it's not so much the same. Like it's just all the music, the lyrics are coming back. People are trying to get more lyrical now. Like it's not like there's more a mix of everything, when one time it was just one thing only, you know. And now lyrics are coming back. You're also seeing like Rakim coming back, and people are excited to see these guys back, you know, because for us, that's our school, and for them, 50 Cent is old school to them. It's just a generational thing, you know. And you know, and people come in waves. They go up, there's a new generation, they hit the airwaves or whatever, then it goes down and they get old and their music comes back up, but then they realize where their music came from and what their parents are listening to. Like, you know, like they'll be like, yeah, you know, oh, what, dad's been listening to Nas since 1993, you know, and their kid is 23 and they know all about Nas, but they know about who's here, you know, that time for them, you know. So it's good to see it come back around.
Yeah, man. What's one of your biggest inspirations? Starting out like early on,
Like musically,
like hip hop wise.
hip hop wise.
Let's do hip hop wise, and then let's do musically in general. Let's do that.
Hip hop wise, it would definitely be Public Enemy. But my first record I bought was Humpty Dance and Sex Packets by Digital Underground. So like I like Public Enemy just because I just liked that style, like the boom, that hard, loud rap, KRS One, 2, you know, Rakim, all that stuff. But like I would listen to that, but I remember I knew that Nations well, first I knew the first record, I'm gonna forget what it was, but I remember like Public Enemy #1 was on it. Yo, Bum Rush and Show, I like that song a lot. So I first got into that, but Nation of Millions, I knew that album front to back, every single piece of that record. That was, you know. And then so I had that, and then I loved the Humpty Dance and Do What You Like. So then that was my first vinyl where I started doing DJing in basements. I had my double versions of the Sex Packets and the double version of Humpty Dance, and that was my 2 records I went into. And after that, I was like, next, I'm done my set.
Word up.
Like it came to play 2 records and I'm done.
Yeah, man. Did you ever get a chance to meet Shock G? Rest in peace. Have you ever gotten a chance? Did you ever get a chance to meet him?
No, and unfortunately, no. I did see him. Like we have Much Music up here back when those music TV stations played music videos, and I remember when they were up here. But that's the closest I've ever got to him, is like he was in the same city.
Yeah, man. So 21 years, right? That's the first, 21 years. That's the first joint that kind of broke for you, right? Is that like 21 years off the EP is kind of the first joint that broke for you?
Yeah, that was that was my very first, actually it's my first time being on vinyl. My very first record. I put that record out with Father Time on the other side, but the Father Time was the record we were pushing. And it just so happened, somebody said, hey, you guys should check out the next side of this record. And it was 21 years. And then that was my first record ever. And then it kind of caught on, and then it helped launch my career there.
I might have that vinyl. I'm not going to dig through my vinyl crate. I feel like I might actually own that. The 21 years with the Father Time on. I feel like I have a copy of that somewhere.
I hope so. It cost us a lot to ship it out. Jeez, I mean, good. It went somewhere. We really pushed that out, and that was my first record I was ever on. And me being a part of Knee Deep Records, it was the first record that I ever put out, and then that was the beginning of like not only my music career, but then also as an independent at that time record label, kind of doing stuff as well. So it was very much of a life-changing record. We didn't realize it at the time. We just were like happy had our record out.
Yeah, because I mean, it got nominated for right the album. The album was nominated for like the EP was nominated
Oh,
for a Juno Award, right? Is
yeah,
that
we got not for 21 years. After I did 21 years, so the story behind that was at that point, when 21 years of Father Time came together, at that point I was like kind of giving up on giving away demos because nobody was talking, right? So went to my manager at the time. Well, he wasn't my manager at the time, just the guy who was working at the studio with. And I was like, man, Ty, we should just put records out. We know what sounds good. We should just put them out. And then he called next day, said, you want to do that? We said, yeah. So we went and put it all together. Next year we had Knee Deep Records. We didn't have a record, and we commissioned this song that my manager produced he produced Father Time with Sox. We had that, and back then all the records had B-sides, and we didn't have anything. And I was giving it up as a rapper, but I was like, all right, I'll just do the B-side just for whatever. So because Sox wasn't signed to us, we just did a record together, and I did the B-side, and then Father Time took off, and then 21 years took off after. We were like, oh, we've got to put out another record. And then we were like, well, we don't have any artists. I guess I'll put another record together. And that became the EP with Just a Second and What It Takes with Julie Black. And that song went on to go and win the Juno. So yeah, because we didn't have any artists, we were like, well, what are we gonna do?
yeah, and just so people realize, like, and I didn't even know this until I kind of deep dove into it a little bit, but like the Juno Awards in Canada are like the Grammy Awards in the US. It's like the equivalent. So
the Junos is your Grammys, and our Much Music Video Awards are your MTV Awards, if we're on a level like that. Yeah, so it's just as big up here as it is for your guys' stuff down there.
yeah, so that's huge.
Yeah,
Huge
it was
shit,
crazy.
man.
That was crazy. Yeah, that was crazy. I never thought that was gonna happen. And when I did What It Takes with Julie, that was the first time that we met to face in studio working together. We knew of each other because we were running together with Socrates and Cardinal and everybody. We were all mutual friends at that point. But that was the first time we went into the studio and was like, hey, okay, so what are we gonna do? And out comes What It Takes. A few months later, first Juno with me and her. Crazy.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I always ask artists that have witnessed or been able to move on and do like amazing things like what you've gotten to do. Did you know, like like I had talked to Numbskull from Looney's about the I Got Five on It joint at one time, and like when we had a conversation, he was like, we knew. He was like, we knew that joint was gonna be something. Like, did you know that your collective of people that you were working with and like the music y'all were putting together was gonna like, do that
Do all of
shit?
that. I don't know if we knew. We knew that we were amongst ourselves because we knew amongst ourselves that we were good because of the other artists that were in like our crew, the circle, because we were all separate MCs and we would critique each other all the time. Like, this song's good, this song's not good. You could do better on that. Maybe change a hook. Like, just when we're in our regular gatherings, just hanging out at somebody's house or at the studio and stuff. So amongst us, we felt we were good. It was just amongst everybody else, how would they accept us? Because in Canada at the time, it was very competitive, and there was really no industry but college radio. And so everybody that's doing it, it was like Chaos has a song called Crabs in a Bucket. It was almost like this crabs in a bucket type scenario because everybody felt that should be them. And we just kind of concentrated on the fact that we were actually just competing against each other, like in a friendly compete. We were just like, okay, Cardi, you got a beat. Let me see what I could do it on it. Oh, Solitaire, you got Socks, you got something. And then, okay, I'm going to bring Rodala on this beat and so on. We were just like trying to outdo each other with our own collabs and stuff like that. And every once in a while, we'd get like, Danny O jumping on, oh, where'd you get Danny O from? Or something like that, like we were kind of competing with each other, just trying to make great music. So amongst us in our little circle, that's why we called it our circle, we knew Cardi was good and Socks was good, Shocks, Tara Chase was good. We knew they were good like that. but not to everybody else. We didn't know, we aspired for it, but like we didn't know how it was going to flash out. And especially once I started coming out, you know, and getting on tracks like Northern Touch, and then doing my other records like Let's Ride and stuff, I didn't know what was going on. I was just kind of like, I was just happy to be doing what I was doing. I was a
Yeah.
hip hop fan doing rap, and holy cow, I made like $100, but I had to pay for the bus. Oh man, I actually got my bus covered. Took me 8 hours to get there, but boy, came home with $150. So made money. Like, you know, like I'm just happy right there, you know, just going on the road and doing what I love.
Yeah, man. Pestilence, you got something? I kind of see you.
I'm just absorbing all
He's
of that.
absorbing.
Like
He's getting in it. He's
listening to
getting
that,
in it.
man. I'm just
You you
listening to
you
that, man.
you spoke on Northern Touch. So I read an article that Northern Touch was the joint that put Toronto, that put Canadian hip hop in a spotlight. I read an article that said that song, it's like an anthem joint. It's still talked about to this day. How does that song happen? Is it just because they're all the way? Because the Rascals are in Vancouver, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. They
So
are
the
on the West
Rascals
Coast
are
in
all the
Vancouver.
way in
Yeah.
West Coast. You guys are in Toronto. Obviously, you guys are like, you guys have a buzz already doing your thing. They have a buzz. Is that how it just happened? Like you guys just came together, or how did it all come together for that Northern Touch?
Well, yeah, we knew of each other. I met the Rascals one time. I think only once it's at this point. I met them once when I was in Vancouver doing the Beat Factory tour with Danny O and everybody and Monolith. And we just met. I was like, hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up? Know you, I heard of you, blah, blah, blah. You know, and then pretty much it. And then that was like maybe 3 years prior or something. So then by that point, I've helped put out other records. Like I put out like maybe 11 records for other people, including myself, through my Knee Deep records. So they knew me through Knee Deep, and then plus I had to put out my own records because we didn't sign nobody. So I would be throwing out. So they knew me through Knee Deep records, plus me by throwing out my other records in between and being on singles and collaborative records and compilations and stuff like that. So I was working at that time. I was a daycare teacher. You know, I was sitting at work where people called your work, like not like they call your phone. They call and boss comes and picks up the phone, says the phone's for you. It's like, okay, who's calling me? And then it was like the Rascals people. And at that time, it was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do a collaborative record. Didn't know what was gonna happen with it. Probably just float out there, hopefully for promotion on a mixtape, something like that. One of them type of mixes. So, but it was like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. You know, we know the Rascals. I didn't know Checkmate at the time. I didn't know of them at the time, but the Rascals were on there already, and Checkmate was on there already. So they did how the old school did. They had to ship the 2-inch tape from Vancouver all the way to Toronto. We pick it up, take it into the studio with the 2-inch tape. And at that time, like I was saying, me and the Circle could be rolling with anybody at that time. So it could have been Sox, could have been Bro, could have been Solitaire, Tara. That day I was rolling with Cardi to go to the studio because we were just hanging. We were hanging just hanging that day. I was like, yo, you want to go to the studio? I'm doing a song with the Rascals and Thrust and this new guy, Checkmate. I was like, yeah, because that's what we did. We just were like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm not doing nothing. We go to the studio. And after all of that came out, we went there. Back then, everybody wanted to be the anchor guy. Everybody wanted to be the last person on the track. So the Rascals were in the beginning. Checkmate was in the third position. So me and Thrust did rock, paper, scissors. I lost. So Thrust became the last guy and I became the second guy on the track. And then we did the track. Cardi did the hook. And then the song was like that. And then everybody really liked it. So because it was on the Rascals record, they really liked it. So they decided to do more with it instead of just kind of put it out there. And then the only bad part, what at first we thought it was going to be a bad part, was that right when we dropped that record, DMX came out with a "Gotcha, Get at Me, Dog." And again, right at the same December 19, what was that, 97, 98? Yeah, 97, 98. Yeah. He came out with the same beat on,
Like,
and then
and like how does, like, is that just coincidence, or was there like somebody snatching? Like, what happened?
There's a lot of talks, but I don't know. I wasn't that deep into the knowing all of these politics or everything like that back then. It was like just talks about the beat was heard and whatever, but that beat's a sample, so anybody could have heard it and everything. So whatever it was, the only thing that we were fearing is because at that point, Canadian artists and especially Toronto had a chip on their shoulders because they always felt that they were good enough and nobody gave them a chance, and so they always kind of like always would prefer stuff coming from America than the stuff that was coming from their own country. So we were afraid that people would be, because everything was like, oh, that's good for a Canadian. It was always that something, you know, like he's good for a Canadian. Oh, that video looks good for a Canadian video. It was always that at that point. So when the DMX comes out, Northern Touch comes out, that's what we're thinking. They're gonna be like, yeah, well, you know, why they try to copy DMX? Meanwhile, the song was recorded a year ago, right? Like and stuff like that. We didn't know he had a song like that. But lo and behold, they were like, oh no, this song is official. Like this is an official song, and the country caught on, and it just went on and became what it became. To now, it's like, you know, like it's, some people call it the Canadian hip hop national anthem because of it covered from the West Coast to the East Coast. And at that time, it was all I was on a come up, Cardi was on a come up, Thrust was established, and the Rascals were established, and Checkmate were on. So it was like people that you knew and people that you sort of knew, you know what I mean? And it just kind of came up. The beat was dope, and the energy was tight on the track, and that's how that track came together. And since that was like the big bust. And then it went on to go and win a Juno, which made it my second Juno that I got. And a
dope.
Much Music Video award too. So that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, man.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy how that came together. Yeah.
Yeah, and the joint is super dope. Like the video's fresh. Like, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just,
it came together. I think, yeah, I don't know. Like, see what we were asking, did you know? I did not know about that track being like how it is now. Like, I didn't know that, but we were just, I don't even think I heard the beat when they were asking me to do it when I was talking to them on the phone. They just kind of just said, do you want to do a track? It's probably going to be for some type of BMG, you know, mix, whatever they did back in like 97, put a cassette out or CDs. I think was just coming fresh then, and do it and get it out for, I don't know, some seasonal promotion, and the song would be on there. So that's what we thought. And lo and behold, like, you know, like almost like that, like almost 25 years later, the song still holds weight and people respect it. It's like one of those songs when they come on, people are like, whoa, yeah. I remember, where were you when you heard this track? Right. You know, like one of them things.
yeah, man. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the vibe of stepping out to receive like the Juno Award. Like what is like, how do you feel when that shit happens, man? I mean, that's that's
Like, I'll tell you this. So I have 4 Junos, and 2 of them were unexpected. So when Northern Touch came, and the funny thing with that is the year before the Rascals won the Juno Award, but they declined to accept it because they felt there should be more hip hop representation on the Junos. Like they would always put the hip hop, R&B, reggae awards and stuff like that, even like dance music and stuff like that. So just even like urban music representation on the pre-shows or the night before for the dinner banquet or whatever they do. So they declined to accept the award in 97, I think it was. So then now this song comes out, and it's undeniable by the time it's going out. So you kind of knew. I was worried about what everybody's speech was going to be. Like, you know, because they had us perform on the awards and everything like that. So, you know, like a lot of times if somebody's performing, most times, you know, whatever. I didn't know that at the time, but I knew the buzz was there, especially from the year before. So like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, we knew we had it, but we were like, well, there's a good chance the song is going to get it, right? And there was nothing coming out of Canada, because remember, this is just Canada. So there's nothing that came out of Canada that was bigger. There's good songs, but nothing at that level. So that was that. The first one, What It Takes, I didn't know. Northern Touch, I kind of had a feel. And then I was sort of the same feeling with Ice Cold with Let's Ride. Because again, it was like that same thing. There's a lot that led up to that, but with Let's Ride, when that came out again, it was but it was special because this was my own. Like it wasn't a collaborative thing. It wasn't a Juno for somebody else. It was like it was my and all the things like in what it takes. It was like like just underground, and some people like it. It was more on a creative factor of like creatively this record's really good. Yeah, I think it deserves it had nothing to do with how big you were and stuff like that. With Let's
Yeah.
Ride, it was just kind of more like it was like I'm not like I'm here, but it's like take your moment, like you have the #1 album, you have the #1 record, you have the #1 video. This is all you, like with your team. So I'm not trying to be greedy and say I produced it and put it out myself, but this is all you. And now you walking out, take your shine, smile, and shine, because this could be the last time. People don't get to walk out twice or 3 times at that point. This could be your last time. So it was felt like it. So I was kind of like, yeah, I guess. My 4th Juno, I had no idea. I was wearing a Sean John long sleeve shirt. It was in Edmonton. I had just like some jeans on. I'm sitting there with a piece of like whatever, the banquet chicken that's under flavored and the thing, just eating it up, just trying to put as much hot sauce on it. And they're like, and the Will Juno goes to Choclair for flagrant. Camera on my face. I'm looking like Spence Diamond looking at me. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And so we're like waving off her face, walking up to this thing with the towel and the shirt. You'll see there's a picture of me just sitting there with the Juno and Spence. Somewhere you'll find it on the internet. There's a picture of me holding up the Juno and Spence just sitting there in his leather jacket. We just went to go. We weren't even, and we were like, well, like literally at that moment, we were like, we did not expect this at all, because there was really good competition. Man. Like, like IRS was there, like all these guys were there, like, and they were all coming through, right? I was just happy, like literally, I was just happy to be nominated and then be a part of the whole thing. And that was that. So we asked me how it feels to do that. Like every time feels special, but it all has its own moments. Rascals, yes. What Ice Cold, because it was my moment. What It Takes, because it was my first. And Flagrant, because I had no idea. I just thought I was there, just be like, yeah, I just put the.
I mean, Flagrant's dope though. Flagrant's a cold.
I thought it was.
That's just cold.
I thought it was dope, but I was just like, there's all the new cats coming. I was like, just put him here, the veteran, he's doing this thing and kind of thing, like, and I accept. I was like, hey, sure, yeah, because these hot dudes are doing their thing right now, and I won. I was like, whoa, chicken and a scarf and my shirt, all this stuff running up to the stage.
That just sounds hilarious. Like the camera's just randomly in your face when you're eating this shit.
Yeah, because they have a camera on everybody, right? Because I guess they don't know, and then as soon as they say who it is, they go camera 2 or camera 3, right? So I'm just sitting, cameras there, right? But okay, like, I don't know. I cared, but I didn't know. But yeah, but it's special on each one, and it yeah, I remember every single moment. Never forget any of them. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. I mean, that's super dope. I want to know. I want to know how the original circle of y'all all met and came together. Like Sox, Cardinal, you, the rest of the cats in the circle. Like how does that form? How does that come together? Y'all just all grew up together? Is that how that worked?
No, it's kind of funny how it came together. Was so in like grade 10, I think I did my first talent show at my school. I went to Pope John Paul in Scarborough. And my friend Ramon, he was like doing breakdancing and all that other stuff. That was what he was into. But he and Sox lived around my friend Ramon. So around this time, around like 92, 93, Sox did this record with Eugene, who runs Play the Record, which is like an iconic record store in Toronto. And he had this record label called Steppin' Bigger. And Sox had a song on there called Still Too Much and Tuesday. They just put out this random rapper from Toronto, nobody heard of, but it was good. Like people, like even, still with it's for Canadian attached, right? But it caught some heads. So people were like, okay, yeah, that's a pretty good record. So Ramon knew I was rapping and knew that Sox produced his own beats and rap too as well. And he kind of introduced us. So when I met Sox, like phone numbers and stuff, and then I was going to go to the studio. He had the studio, which was who became my manager's studio. At the time, we would go up there. I literally be paying him for beats, like, like we drive up and go, he play me a packet of beats and be like, I like this one, I like this one. But then we all lived in Scarborough. And then Ro Dollar, I went to school with Ro. So we were all in Scarborough, and Cardi and all those guys were all out in the West. But Sox was affiliated with them because they had this program that the government used to do called Figures of Speech. And it was just a bunch of musicians and stuff and poetry and all this other stuff. It was like one of these programs they did over the summer for, just for creative arts. So they got together on their own thing. But then me, Sox, and Ro were cool because we were on the East Side, but we were always working together. So we just all started hanging out because we go to the studio, and I met Cardi through there. I met Solitaire and everybody else. And we just became, like I was saying earlier, we liked each other's music, what we were doing. And we would end up doing like friendly competitions because we would always just be like, yo, check out the song I did. Like we passing our cassettes around, like, yo, we riding in the parts, chopping each other's tapes up, eating up our machines. All this stuff was going on crazy, but we were doing all of that. But we were doing it so often, and then we'd have a little show here and a little show there, and everybody would show up, like the old Wu-Tang 19-man on stage type situation. I need 17 mics and stuff like that, and the sound man's pulling his hair out and all this other. But we were all always around each other, so we just called ourselves like, yeah, circle of friends. They were a figure of speech. I was with a crew called Paranormal, and so it was, and then we had breakers in our crew. They were affiliated to Intricate Paranormal, and Intricate and Bag of Tricks used to be the biggest breakdancing situation in Toronto back then. And we had them in Paranormal. So we just became friends. We called ourselves the Circle. We were a circle of friends, and we just continued to do that. And that's how we just moved. We just moved all together all the time. Every time we were just a bunch of kids that loved hip hop, music, and everything. And this was our core. This is who we ran with every single day. I had a car, somebody else had a car. We drove everybody everywhere, charged them $2 for gas.
Man,
that's how we worked it.
What were hip hop shows like back then? Like was it just? I mean, obviously, because there was other people, or was it just y'all that were like? How were the shows? Like, how was the people that came out? Like, how were they?
It was a lot of crews in a way, because what they would do, because it wasn't a lot of, like, besides like Ghetto Concept and Dream Warriors, Maestro Mishimi, maybe Thrust, and maybe a few other guys of Rascals, but Rascals were all the way in the West Coast, so they would do mostly showcases. So they might have like, okay, Ghetto Concept is the headline or the main event or whatever, the showcase, but it'd have like a bunch of artists, coming up, like myself and even Chaos and other people like Concrete Mob and just a bunch of groups. And they would just do that, and all these kind of, it was always these little not jam sessions, all these like festival shows. It would be like 20 artists on it, start at 4:00.
That's
Sorry?
dope. That's dope, man.
Yes, yeah. So that's how the shows were like, and then it was very tunnel, like New York tunnel. Like it would be like, because people from their crew, from wherever the rappers were, would all be in there. So you would have people from this side, that side, that side, that side. Just, and once there were people, but the funny part about it is a lot of them would be on stage. So every time the crowd would just thin out on certain parts because everybody would come on stage and ask for 17 mics. But people started vibing it, because when everybody started seeing things kind of happen, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, there's a real thing, but again, crabs in the bucket, but still there's a kind of a something, we see something, but my dude's better than your dude and stuff, but we still all come in. And then the best part is, like, when I look back on it now, the same dudes that we were all like, like, we're all cool, right? Because we all were in the same spot coming up. Like, we were at the same showcase on this day. This one, you remember the one over at Manifesto at Nathan Phillips Square? We were all over there. You remember the one over at Echo? Yeah, we were all over there. Like, all of us, and now up to here. Yeah, people working in radio, TV. Mark Strong is the voice of the Raptors and the voice of, I think he's the Argos, our football team, the CFL up here, and stuff like that. So, like, we see all our peoples in different ways. Not everybody's a rapper, but they're all in where they wanted to be, and we all respect all those things, because we were all in that mid early 90s hustle, trying to get somebody to even hear us, to know who we were.
Yeah, man. But see that, like, that whole vibe just sounds dope. So fast forward to now, the shows now,
yeah,
compared to that, because I feel like the vibe that you just explained to me makes me think of the golden era hip hop scene, even in the US, like how dope it was, like with like how the shows were, how fresh they were, like all the, like I feel like that's what it was, and that was dope. And I missed that. Like I
Mhm.
started rhyming probably 94. I was young. I didn't do my first show until I was in high school, 96, my first actual show. And then by the time I started getting on some regular shit, and when I actually started really diving in the tour game, that wasn't until 2015. I've had great show experiences. I mean, don't get that twisted at all, but shows are different now.
They are different. And see, I guess I'm lucky enough to be able to still catch the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because somebody showed me this footage and they sent it to me, and they had me at this one place, and it's like intimate, like maybe 100 people, 200 people and stuff like that, and it's just wall to wall. The sound man's from doing the sound from behind the stage, and like, yo, how are you from the house and you behind the stage? Like, I don't know what's going on here, but like, like it's that type of setup, almost like rock band. You start out in the club and everything, like you're like, where am I at right now? And then still being able to do these type of shows, like go on tour and do stadiums, and I still get to go and do these small 250s, very intimate shows like that. And I kind of like, well, there's again, it's the best of both worlds, because sometimes if you're in front, like 1,000 people or something like that or more, it's just big. You just to feel like you're feel big, right? Especially when they know your songs and everybody's singing the hook, and it just sounds like what it sounds like when you're hearing another artist on stage and everybody's singing their hook, and you're just like, oh, it's us on stage. Oh, this is what they're doing for. That's why you'll probably know this anyways. Like sometimes when artists are on stage and something's going really well or whatever, the call and response is going really well, and you just stand there and you just smile. You're like, yeah, that's how it's
Oh
supposed to
yeah.
be. Yeah. That's like, you see how all of us just smile. They're like, what's he smiling for? It's like, yeah, he's sinking it in right now. So it is different. The energy is definitely different, because for a point only, because everybody was trying. Everything was an
Mm.
audition. Like, how is this guy how's these people gonna like me? So I got to perform like this. Where some people, and we didn't have pyros unless you were like just doing big stadium shows on your own. And back then they still had to be like Jodeci, Biggie Smalls, Loonies, Adina Howard, Naughty by Nature, Junior Mafia, Little Kim, and that would sell out a stadium, an arena show. Like you had to have like all this, the Summer Jam tour is showing around, and now Nicki Minaj just goes up there and she's selling it out like that, and that's good, and I'm not saying anything like she doesn't have effort in or nothing, but I'm just saying, like, it's not an audition now. You're more like showcasing. Like you're just
Mm.
like, what I am and what I do and whatever, and you got the lights and the set design and the
Yep.
big stage and everything like that. So like you're more like, just like, check this out and hope you like how I put this together. Where before, at that point, you're like, you're gonna like this 45-minute freestyle with no beat on and stuff like that. They'll just go to the record skips. Don't worry, I'll beatbox it over, and then you start rapping, and there's like those 3 people in the audience that really get it, and the other people are like, I don't know what they're doing. But that's when you're
I,
hungry, man.
but see, you know what? I, man, have you ever had the thing happen where the crowd doesn't respond to you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, man. I've had those things where they, for whether they didn't like the music and they were just too nice to boo or throw something at me, or they were just like, we just don't get it, what he's doing or whatever, because they didn't know my music. I'm out in a town, like I'm surprised I'm even booked there, like on the early outs and everything. I was just someone that I guess was really cheap, and they're like, hey, I'm gonna bring hip hop into this, whatever this place is, and hopefully the kids like it. But they'll come because there's a hip, but they have no idea what's going on. They're like, for a minute, they vibe, right? And then you know, you get into your third song and they still don't know any of your music, right? Like sometimes it gets a little where you're like, no, make some noise. And that one person, yeah, thank you. Like, yeah.
We've me and Pestilence had that crazy shit happen at this. We've told this story before, but we've had this crazy show in Racine, Wisconsin, where nobody would respond to the call, like the the call and response should, not a single person. And it was actually like the venue was actually popping, like people were there, but they did not give a fuck at
They
all.
wouldn't respond to nothing. It wasn't even just call response. Like first I tried making them laugh, that got nothing. Then I tried insulting them a little bit. I was like, maybe I can make them mad, at least make them something. Nah, man, they were impervious to any damage. It was just me and you there doing our thing,
Wow.
which is which is cool, man. Like I've obviously being where I come from and how it is up here, Denku, it's like especially further north, like it's just there's not
Mm.
much of a scene and there's not much of a like a lot of people have gotten sour taste from, poor experiences in the past. Hip hop kind of gets lumped into this one category where there's some people doing this, and then there's other people doing what I would say we're trying to do, which is just going out there and really doing it for the love,
Right.
and doing it because we love doing the art form. And there's it kind of creates this like weird divide where we do have a lot of shows where it's like you don't know what kind of crowd you're going to get, if you're going to get a crowd, what it's going to be like. So I've always treated it like I love performing.
Mhm.
So if there is 0 people in here, if there's 1 million people in here, I love performing. That's what I'm here to do. So I don't
Right.
care if there's a bunch of people here. I don't care what ends up happening afterwards. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here I mean, like if there's people here, I hope they fuck with what I'm doing, but I'm not trying to like I don't have the ego where it's like I need that. It's like, nah, man, I'm just blessed to get to hold the mic and get to do what I love and get this out. That's what it's a catharsis of that first. Everything else after that, like you said, with the smiling when you really feel it, when you got the crowd that's really into it, like that's all gravy. That's all
Yeah.
like that's wonderful when it happens, but it's like, man, if it don't, like it
Still
is what
rock
it
it
is.
same
It's
way.
cooler
Yeah.
when it does, but yeah, but you're still gonna rock the same way. You're still gonna feel good. I still feel good about every show afterwards. Like, nah, man,
Yeah.
if anything, it was a chance for me to try something out or to do something different. Um,
Absolutely.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask, and maybe it's a little different because it sounds like you're on a level where even your intimate shows are bigger shows compared to what we've been doing in a lot of cases. But coming from the era you started a long time ago and you were doing it, like you said, you mailed a 2-inch tape across the across the country, to do a collab. To now, what have you noticed a difference in how the generations respond to you personally as an artist? Like how are the kids today? Like, do you ever interact with people that are much younger? Do they have the same kind of respect and love for what you're doing? Does it seem like they're like, this ain't for me? Um, what's that been like?
Yeah, I haven't really came across like at least not on like to my face or to like where it became a discussion on online of like whether like like what about Choclair? He's too old or we don't care. Well, I'm sure it comes up in discussion. I just haven't seen it or heard it yet. But like,
Mm.
I see. I think for because it's just I don't know. It's just a generational thing, I think. And I think also going back to part of it, what you were asking earlier about like how things get done now, it's like how is the tools they can utilize, it kind of so it's kind of easier. Um, I think it's just some people lose a little bit of their history for a moment on when it comes to music, and so they don't think it matters. It's like imagine somebody in the rock and roll age today say something like like something, yeah, that Jimi Hendrix, he couldn't do nothing. or that Eric Clapton couldn't, we'll get rid of that guy, or, imagine everybody be like, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here, right? Like people wouldn't, but then at a point up here, you had like the new guys coming out and like, kind of like just talking about like people like, then that's not even all the way back, like Tupac or Biggie or Nas, or they haven't really talked about Mobb Deep that way. But like, even if you go back and they didn't understand like the Slick Ricks, and I think it's a fault on either side to a degree of like, we should have been teaching these kids their history as they were coming up, but because everything kind of just leapfrogged over, a situation went from physical to digital, and then it just one youth group took there, and we were still trying to bridge the gap, because these young kids, they jump on everything real quick. Like, they as soon as you tell them something, they already have it Google. Oh, that's false. Like, you can't even get the word out. They're just quick on it like that. So they just jumped on it. So we should have helped get them to realize their history more. So when they hear those names, then they can get it. But then also, it's also on a thing where they got to also go and find their history as well. And I find that at currently people are looking back, because a lot more people, like, I'm in my 40s, so it's like we have kids, and their kids are listening to the music that we were listening to while they were listening to the music they're listening to at the same thing. And so as they get older, like a lot of our older heads are like, there's like Chuck D, I think is 62 or something like that. Ice-T, like they're all up in their mid 50s and stuff. And so we're showing them, the younger kids, the history that we grew up to, and they're still around. It's not like they don't know them, but they just may not think how important they are and what they did. And then now people are really like showing them. And I think that they're starting to go back, because all the music and the samples, it's like when we were sampling the 80s and the 70s, they're now, like they're sampling the 90s and the early 2000s. Because for that, that's when they were, imagine, that's when they were 5,
Yeah, it is wild to imagine that and to see that, because it is something that I often wonder if it's because every genre seems to have their own quirks and ways things are done through music that's a little different. I mean, it's all music, but there's everybody kind of interacts differently, and hip hop seems to be uniquely like this. I don't know, almost like a battleground in a lot of ways, where you got to earn respect, or a yard. You got to earn respect. And sometimes, like for a lot of older heads, I see situations where, like it's a lot of times it's in the bigger media and stuff, where somebody will disrespect somebody that's a legend, that like you said, put in a lot of work, did a lot of stuff, and it's like, then they got to come back and show them and be put in their place and be like, nah, man, like this guy is responsible. Because that's the other part of it too that I think gets lost for a lot of people. Because it's one thing to not like the older stuff. That's definitely fine. Everybody has their own tastes. That's cool. But to not respect the people that laid the foundation,
Yeah.
that inspired the music that you love, is then a disservice to everybody, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how it is. And that's, because there's things, like you said, there's may not like every single song or stuff or whatever, but it's just the respect. It's just the respect level, because there are a lot of people, like, if like if Fresh Prince didn't win the first Grammy, who knew, right? You don't have to, maybe everybody likes Summertime. I kind of like that Brand New Funk song better though, but like people like Summertime. But then he went on to do TV, and he was one of the first younger rappers to have a sitcom TV show that went into, after that was like Cool J, but then he went into movies and had his biggest movie, Independence Day, and now he's still doing movies. And now he just shows up and rocks. Parents just don't understand just because, and first everybody knows it, right? Like everybody, yeah. And stuff like that. And then you have LL Cool J, who went and did the same thing. You have Ice-T, who went and did the same thing. You don't have to like every Ice-T song, although I would be like, I look at you like, you don't have to, what do you mean you don't have to like all of them? If you don't like one of them, I don't know about you then. But like when he went on and yeah, he went on and he's doing all this CSIs and all this other stuff. So you have to respect from where he came. He was just a street rapper from like 86, you know, and some people don't even know, and this is where the history gets lost sometimes, is that he originally had the song "I Have a 99 Problems, but a Bitch Ain't One."
Yeah, I learned that recently, and I saw like an interview about that. And he's somebody too, and that's something because I found hip hop maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and
Mhm.
it took over my life, and it's one of my favorite parts is how deep it is in a lot of different things. Like, like Ice-T is one of the most interesting figures in the media to me because like you said he's in Law and Order now. He's been like a incredibly long tenured character on that, but he's part of Body Count. He
Yeah,
had all his own original stuff. He's responsible for a lot, like he's responsible for the 99 Problems, like that record even
yeah.
existing is because he made it's like damn, like this motherfucker was deep into a lot of stuff and and
Mhm.
and, and continued to go on and grind, and it's like it's just crazy. And like you
You
said,
see,
you got to respect it.
yeah, he told me one thing. I remember I think it was for like Vibe magazine quite a few years ago, and I was doing an interview, and I remember uh we were talking, and I remember one advice he told me and stuff. He goes, you can what do you say? He said you could tape. I don't know why it was all this duct tape. It's like you could duct tape a man's legs, duct tape a man's hands, duct tape a man's mouth, and he can still criticize you. The hardest thing for somebody to do is give you a compliment. And I was like, first I was still caught up on the duct tape part. And I was like, why does it have to be duct tape? Why didn't it just be like, like some, like a rope or something like that? But the point he was making to me was like, like it's like not everybody's good. And this was when I was starting, and he was like saying not everybody's going to be nice. They'll always find something to say. I don't like the horn on this track. The snare is weird. His voice is off, or something like that. They can always find something to criticize. But hardest thing to say. So when people are complimenting you, sometimes when you take you always shake out the sand and just find the nuggets. Like find where the nuggets are, especially and even when they're criticizing you, because they might have an actual criticism. They might just hate you, but they actually have a point. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so, and that's something like, like an Ice-T and many others have just given me, and those are the respect. And that's where I think the newer cats need to reach back, and the older cats have to reach up as well, because once they get to know you, they'll know your history, they'll know your songs, they'll know where the sample comes from, like, and like when Biggie's One More Chance came out, all of us young guys are like, whoa, this is the best beat ever. And then, meanwhile, my mom's like, I gotta tell you something about that beat. It's actually a sample from and we just think it's brand new. And so now when they're doing and then I learned, and now when you hear like a mix show or something like that, and they play the sample first, and then they play like the song after, like for Reminisce, they play the song, the horns, or where it starts from, and then all of a sudden it goes right into Reminisce with see how but you already now that song. So now guess what? You actually learn something and you're a fan of that song, right? So it's just that education situation. And um it's just great. And I think that's the stuff that needs to happen. We got to teach each other the music, and the younger cats definitely have to reach out as far as just showing the respect and the strength back to some of the people who help do it.
I
That's dope.
totally agree, and I
Yeah.
think a big part of it too, to me is the a lot of people, at least that I noticed, because like I said, I'm relatively new to everything. I came in, I was lucky enough to have my homie Space Case, and then I met Denku, people that kind of helped show me the ropes in a lot of ways, guys that have been doing it for a long time. And I immediately I want to learn as much as I can. So as soon as I meet people like that, like I soak it all in. I try to get as much as I can out of it. Because I really do love, like, this changed my life.
Mhm.
But I do notice like a lot of my peers, people that are around the same age, people that are wherever, that started when I started, a lot of people don't have that same, like, they're not interested in the same thing. Like, I'm interested in the craft and mastering my craft and being the best I can be at everything I'm doing. A lot of other people seem to be interested in a lifestyle or a a certain end goal. And I feel like sometimes when the core roots of what you're actually doing, because it's like your medium is hip hop. So if you don't
Mhm.
have the respect for the hip hop, how do you expect hip hop to put you on? Because that's what you're trying to use as your medium. You got to respect the craft and learn about it and love it. And if you
See,
love it, it will love you back.
that's one of those things too, where you could tell, like, people who have like longevity, legacy, and then people who, like they might have like a moment, they might be just a one track pony. They might have a moment in the sun, but it's like the difference because, like you said, some people will go out there and just do like this is gonna, like back what we used to say about do it for the gram. Oh, this is for the gram. This is for the gram. This is for, and
Yeah.
they just change. They just put a M they put an N at the end of the M. And just be like, this is for the grand. This is for the grand. This is for the grand. They just substitute that. So they're just doing things for money. But then a lot of times what happens is that they're following a trend. Now, following a trend is not bad because you know where things are going, what type of whatever. But that's all they do. So they're not creating music as like the music that they love or for the heart of it. Because once you get into it and you learn the history of music and you find stuff that you like, that as far as the type of music you like through all the hip hops and stuff like that you're listening to, then you start generating your own thing, like exactly what you like plus what you want to express and everything, and people will catch on to that. But if you're just doing like, oh, it's auto tunes in, I'm doing everything auto tune, then okay, T-Pain's still around and Roger Troutman still gets his props, but where is this person? Where is that person now? Where is that person? Because they just did what was hot. They didn't do what was in their heart. And that's why I think a lot of times those people who just do it just for the money or the likes, whatever you want to call it, they may be around and maybe a splash for a moment, but they're a small rock in a big pond, so they splash and get a ripple, but you would rather be a big rock in a big pond and splash and make a big ripple, and that's what happens when people respect the art and do it, and they can disappear, like they can disappear for years and then still come back, like Nas. Like, Nas could have just retired. Jay-Z could have retired. Look, he's coming back with Alicia Keys and everybody's excited because people like his art and craft. Some people like Jay, some people don't like Jay, but you have to respect him and the way that he did it and what he's doing and everything like that. And everybody likes Alicia Keys. So right there, it's like what are you going to say about Alicia Keys, right? Like really. Like,
Yeah.
that's like a
It's a
Mary
good
J.
point.
Blige thing. It's like, well, she shouldn't have did a song with Jay, but I'll listen to
Yeah.
it because it's
Yeah.
no, I'll
Yeah.
listen to it because it's her, like if you're one of those things, but people are gonna listen and people are interested because they know he's authentic to, they know he's respected and I guess that's the better word.
I mean,
And
I remember when Empire State of Mind came out, and my uncle and all these people in the town that I lived in, which was not hip hop centric at all, like were bumping that song nonstop, and it just had me laughing. Like wow, like this really transcended its genre into these other people, and they're singing like my uncle's singing along with a raspy voice to Alicia Keys, and it's like
yeah.
it just makes you smile. And like you said, it's like it is cool to see that longevity exists, and it is cool like to see, like you said, Rakim coming back, like all these guys coming back and getting the hype and the excitement and the warm welcome back, not like
Yeah.
a oh, like this is that, because I really have always had the mentality too that there's not a finite number of spaces, with the internet now existing and there being pretty much unlimited exposure, people are going to find what they like. So
Right.
it's like the rising tide will raise more ships than, little battleships shooting at each other in a tiny little pond. It's like why are we doing this? Why are we bickering amongst ourselves when nobody knows who we are? If we work together, or if we at least respected each other and were allowed to work in unison around each other, we're all going to benefit from that. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that, um, in a lot of cases from what I've seen. But the ones that do grasp onto that, I've seen just consistently finding more and more success and more uh, long-term success, because it's
Yeah, they
like
got a bigger vision. They got a bigger vision in things, man. That's the Maestro up here. Maestro has a song called "Stick to Your Vision, Leave the Competition." You know what I mean? Like leave everybody to stick to what you got to do, and and if the goal is to go and get everybody to, like yeah, 'cause people are arguing with each other, and it's like, well, nobody cares. Like
right.
nobody knows you. You're fighting over this and that and whichever, and it's not even like you're in a battle of raps or whatever or something like you're from here, you're from there, and you're just like repping. I don't know. I don't even know how to relate it. But yeah, like I hear what you're saying. It's just it works better when people work together. Obviously, not everybody's going to be friendly with each other. But yeah, that's one of the things. Don't get your head clogged up in negative energy, because it takes a lot of energy to be negative. So then you don't have enough to put into your positivity, or you put into your music and your craft and your stuff, because you're too caught up with being mad. All the time, with just dragging around this big cloud, raining on you, and feeling like you got a hot towel all over your shoulders every day. It's not good. That's what negativity is. Like, so you gotta just like, what was it? There was that thing, Jamie Foxx, who used to say, just blow that shit out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, that's it. It's one day, but can't live in a perfect world, but you could be the greatest you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
another thing I wanted to ask is so Denku asked you about how you came to meet your crew. And the reason I really have to ask this is because I've done quite a few shows with Denku, and ever since he's been working on the Collabzilla Volume 2, he's got that joint with you on there, and the beat, like it's one of my favorite beats when he performs it live, because it really bumps. But it's also one of his favorite songs to perform, I think. He always
Yeah.
shouts you out, he always talks about it, he always whatever. So how did you guys come to kind of meet each other, and then have a relationship where you guys, are collaborating on a song?
Well, I think it was just we knew each other's music, and he reached out to me.
Yeah,
You
I
probably
yeah,
know
I,
you know the more of the backstory
yeah. I
of it.
mean, I mean, I knew who you were as an artist already, because I knew the circle. I knew the dope heads from Canada, like, and it was around the time when I was doing a lot of collabs, actually, when we first did that joint. Um, and I don't know if you know what, you probably don't know this full story, Chalk, because I didn't want to even get you involved in it, really, because it was stupid. But we had did our joint, we did our song, um, where basically I reached out to you, we made it happen. You dug the beat,
Right.
we made the joint, it was fresh, um, and you definitely, I don't think you know this at all, that this happened. So the original producer of the song was a producer from Australia. I'm not saying his name because I no longer fuck with this dude, because he's just not a good dude. But um, we had gotten into some beef shit when I was actually on a tour, and what had happened was he had stolen the verse you did for me and put somebody else on our joint while I was on tour, and
He took
acted
my
and
verse off your song.
acted and put no, he took me off the shit and
Oh,
put somebody else on it and acted like it was his shit. And I'm like, bro, this is my song. Like, what are you even talking about? And I was on tour at the time, so I couldn't do nothing really about it. So I'm like going back and forth with this dude about the situation. And that's literally why I had reached out to you after, and I was like, man, I need to show these people that we really, that this is a real feature that me and you did. So let's do a video for it. And
right.
let's really like make some steam happen for it, like that or whatever. So that is what happened with it. And that's the reason why that had ended up getting released almost like on some single shit, like prematurely. But I want to make it something even better. So what had happened was I'm putting together this joint, this album, Collabzilla Volume 2, um, with my homie Bofat. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bofat or not, as a producer. He's kind of making some noise. He's down with Snow Goons, and he's also
Okay.
part of my CyphaDen crew. And he actually remixed our joint and I'm putting that on this collab Zilla Volume 2 joint. But Pestilence, you heard the other song that me and Chalk have with me, Chalk, and Thrust.
Yes.
And that's actually on my album with Vincent Price, who is actually a producer based out of Montreal. So that's like me and all dope Canada heads on it, you know. Like
That
it's
Vincent Price record is might be my favorite project I've heard from you.
yeah, I mean it's fire. But Chuck, to be honest, I never involved you in that because it was some dumb bullshit, is what it was. That's
I didn't know
why.
about that. Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
about that.
and that's why I never even told you, because it was stupid shit. And I actually got a lot of hate from some Toronto heads over that joint, because there were other people that were cool with this dude. And then, like, when I came to Toronto, because I did a small tour run with Snow Goons. When I came to Toronto, I had to basically get all this shit squashed before I came there, because they were talking about doing some crazy shit.
Oh wow. Jeez, I had no idea about that. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty crazy, man. But yes, so the joint that we have is being re-released on Collabzilla Volume 2 as a, because it never came out on an album. It
No, it
was
was
it
just like the video and the
yeah,
single.
yeah, it was a single, but I'm re-releasing that on an actual album that I'm pretty sure Snow Goons is potentially gonna release it for me so we can get vinyl for it. And
Oh, okay.
if I get that, I'll send you a copy. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to have a and does that mean the music from the one is changing again, or is it the music that's on it now? It's
so
still the
I
same.
so I I will show you what it is to make sure you're all good with it. It's not bad. If you
Oh
feel
yeah,
like
no, I'm not worried about that.
if you feel like you want to re-record your verse on it, if you don't like how you sound on it, our
Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, you can send it to me and we'll check it out. Yeah, but I'm glad that it got everything is getting fixed up with it. Yeah, I didn't know about that story and all that stuff. So that's the first time I knew
yeah,
about it.
yeah. But the Vincent Price joint, I didn't drop that yet. I'm waiting for that to all come together. The album's actually done though. I mixed and
Okay.
mastered that full album. And that full album is actually ready to go and done. And like I said, Pestilence heard it. He likes that joint a lot. But yes, recently I have been, because I have two verses on our joint,
Yeah.
and I do perform that joint a lot, because I love that it's like a real joint, like it's like some real shit. Like
Right.
it's not like we just went in and barred out on some hip hop shit, which I love doing that. I love doing
Mhm.
that shit, but it's got a concept, it's got an idea, it's got a thought, and I always like doing that joint, just because I don't want people to think I'm on some one trick pony shit where I can't do concepts. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
I'm not just the lyrical wordplay dude that stems from like a battle rap era. Like I'm not just that.
Yeah. You can put
Uh,
like you can talk about stuff. You have substance and everything.
yeah,
That being said, I will say my favorite thing to witness as your fan and just as a fan of you in general is, and I know it's because you're pissed, but it's when you have something piss you off at a show and you have the mic and you just start like freestyling with the angry Denku. Like
Weren't we
you
just
catch
talking about
this,
that? I'm
yeah,
hungry.
you catch this special, like he's hungry, like you were mentioning that before, and it's like Denku does that a lot, and I think it's like it's one of those things because like Denku's still in a spot where like a lot of people disrespect like what he's done, what he's accomplished, what he's capable of, that on top of it. So it's like it's fun for me to watch that. Like it's like watching a lion, in the wild. Like it's like this is somebody that it's an apex predator. It's somebody that has mastered his craft, that is still hungry. And it's like for somebody that's been in it for so long to still have that hunger, still have that drive. And you mentioned earlier, and I would assume this was probably a newer thing for you, performing with a live band, like that shows hunger. That shows like I want to
Yeah.
continue to add new elements. I want to do new things. I want to create a performance that's, fun
Yeah.
to do, but also it's an experience. And that to me is like, you talked about longevity. You talked about like when you see somebody perform that's truly special. It's like I've watched a lot of shows live of every genre, and it's something that exists within those people regardless of the genre they're in. The people that have that hunger, that drive, you can see it. You see it like a shark in the water sensing blood. Like you see that, like, this person's different. Like all
Mhm.
some of these other acts, like you said, can be talented, they can have a splash, they can be good at what they're doing, but you see the person then that comes in that's hungry, that's every set they do is different. They're adding something new, they're trying out different things, they're experimenting, and like that's probably been my favorite thing about hip hop is the iron sharpens iron mentality of people,
Yeah.
that it's like when you hear somebody do something dope, for me, I'm like two feelings. It's twofold. One, it's like that was dope, and two, it's like, man, now I gotta make something doper than that. Like I
Yeah.
gotta, I
Yeah.
gotta do something that's doper than that. Like it inspires me to get down then, and it's like I love that. Like it's such a great energy to have, regardless of what the thing is that, and it exists in hip hop, and it's something I try to translate to every aspect of my life. Like, yo, we should, if we're gonna compete, let's not compete against each other. Let's compete with each other. Like,
Yeah.
let's, you know, you're gonna throw it
Yeah.
down better. Nah, I'll throw it down better than you. I'll make a better. I work in a kitchen. I'll make a better burger than you. You make me lunch. I'll make you lunch. I
Yeah.
bet you my lunch is better. And it just makes us both better.
It's like you make a good burger, but I make a great double cheeseburger. So why don't we just combine these burgers,
Yeah, yeah,
fill everybody's belly, and I'll be happy and come back for more. That type of thing.
exactly.
Well, yeah, man. Chalk, this has been super dope, man. I don't want to keep you too much longer, man. So just if you could talk about it. I know you said that you had an album coming out at some point soon. Talk about what's next for you real quick before we get out of here and tell people where they can find you.
Okay, next for me coming real quick, there's gonna be a new single coming out this summer. It's with me and Socks. It's gonna be dope. We're just actually putting the logistics together, and there's gonna be a few more singles coming out in 2025. Is gonna be the year Choclair comes back with all his new music, new album, new video, new singles. Touring all summer, so there's a lot of places out there. So you just have to check me out. Like perfect segue right here. You can check me out on all social medias. Choclair Official is on my IG. Choclair Chisnock's on my Facebook. Choclair is on my other Facebook. Choclair is on my Twitter. Mr. Choclair is on my LinkedIn, if anybody still uses that out there, but I still post out there. Choclair on my threads. That's it. Choclair Official on my YouTube. Like, just check it out. You see me post all my shows, all my stuff, and catch up and see all the stuff that's been going on. Like some people, they look on some of my social media and they'll be like, "Holy man, yo, you out there, man." I'm like, yeah, and I try to keep up and stuff like that so people could see what I'm doing and they could see when I'm coming to their city next. So check me out on all social medias and check me out in your city when I get there, because it's always a great show and it's always great meeting new people.
Dope, man.
Hell yeah.
And that's what it
Dope.
is, man. Everybody tuning in. This has been the CyphaDen Chat in association with the Denku Podcast. It's brought to you by CyphaDen Music, where we inspire even those higher. And remember to never stop chasing your dreams, because you will never know what you are fully capable of.
For that.
I'm your host, Tayamu Denku. That's my homie Pestilence right there. Tonight we had the special guest, Choclair, in the building. Thank everybody for tuning in. We will get the clips up. This is a dope-ass episode, and I appreciate you one more time, Choclair, for being in the house.
Word up, yo.
All right,
Peace
man.
out.
Thank
Peace, man.
Good to meet you, man. Peace.
You too, brother.